Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Oh, we got plenty of news and plenty of views to get into today. It is the airing of Grievance Friday. And, of course, it's also... That's right. Mrs. on the radio is going to be joining us today. We got plenty of news to talk about with her, other stories, your phone calls at 860-522-9842 on WTIC News Talk 1080. Right now, we are patiently waiting for the sentencing of Richard Barrington, who are there at the court, in the courtroom, many of which will be on the show today to get a response in real time to the sentencing of Richard Barrington. For those of you who do not know, Richard Barrington, now 20, back in 2023 when he was 18 years old, was pulled over for running red lights. As the police officers pulled him over and was approaching the vehicle, Richard Barrington drove off. No high-speed chase ensued, according to reports. But the young Barrington continued to run through red lights to the point where he crashed into an officer's vehicle. The officer in the passenger side was Detective Bobby Garin, who suffered critical injuries in that crash, subsequently dying. Richard Barrington has pled out, and now must go through sentencing. What that sentencing may look like, many people believe it looks like a 20-year sentence for the young man. If that happens, he could be out. Was he 20 now? He could be out when he's 40. Many members of his family don't think that that's enough. They think that he should do a considerably longer time. I'm going to leave that to to their family. I probably would feel the same way if it were mine. It is difficult for me outside of that to feel that way, but I understand where the Garten family is on this. And again, if we are allowed to, and we have enough time, we will speak to Detective Bobby Garten's brother, Will Garten. He has agreed to come on if he is given the opportunity, should this sentencing happen during the show. If not, on backup, we have Sergeant James Rutowski. He is the president of the Hartford Police Union. And also former Hartford police officer Jill Kiddick is on standby as well. We'll get a statement from either one of them because they are at the courtroom. But I got to talk about something that I know I'm going to get hell for. Don't care. It was brought to my attention that the folks of Black Lives Matter 860 are present. I understand that they were asked to leave. They refused. I understand that they're still at the courthouse. What their presence is there for, I don't know. Other than the fact that Richard Barrington is black, I don't see the reason for Black Lives Matter to be there. Maybe for moral support, but I don't think that's the intent of Black Lives Matter 860. If a group wants to be more polarizing, this is a way to do it. Richard Barrington had no criminal record when he was pulled over. According to reports, he had no criminal record. He ran 2 stoplights before he was pulled over. He chose to flee. In doing so, that's the tightrope we talk about here on the show. In doing so, by not doing what was required of him once he had been caught doing something wrong, facing his consequences, he fled. And now a life has been extinguished because of his choices. Black Lives Matter 860. What is your role in showing up at the courtroom, aside from just letting Richard know that he's not alone? Hey, we understand what you've done. I just don't want you to feel as though you've been abandoned. We're Christian folks. We forgive. We're here to just show you support. We know that's not why Black Lives Matter 860 is there. Because they've already posted inflammatory comments about family members putting up pictures of Detective Bobby Garin. Why? Because they don't want it to be lost on this judge that a life was taken, a young life, unnecessarily, while he was doing his job, going to another call. He was on the road, Detective Garin was on the road unrelated to Richard Barrington. He was doing his job as a police officer, risking his life, and lost it. There's a price to be paid for that. And if Black Lives Matter 860 shows up at the courtroom and didn't go over to Bobby Garten's family and say to them, our condolences. We are saddened for your loss. We hope that Richard pays for his crimes, but we're just here as moral support. We are not here to suggest that he is being treated unfairly. We are not here to suggest that this is a black thing or a racial thing. We want to bring unity. But you didn't do that. You have no intention of doing that. You want to turn this man's death and the sentencing for his death into a racial issue. Why? What good does that do? And who are you there representing outside of Richard Barrington? Are you there representing all black kids? All black people? Are you injecting yourself racially into this situation, this already sad situation, where somebody's about to lose close to 20 years of their life? A man who had no criminal record and his first criminal charge is manslaughter, taking another man's life? You don't think that you should cool the tensions here? Maybe not create them? Because what did Detective Bobby Garin do to draw the ire of Black Lives Matter 860? Die? At the hands of somebody who was reckless on the road? What was Detective Bobby Garten's crime? What is there for black folks to be upset about? Nothing. But you want people to be angry. So let me, instead of criticize you, let me speak to the family members and supporters of Detective Bobby Garin. Please Reserve your ire for the clearly misguided members of Black Lives Matter 860. Whoever is there in that courtroom, draw your ire towards them. Decent folks, no matter what stripe they are, they send their condolences to you and hope that your family is somewhat made whole, because they can't bring Bobby back. I just want you to choose goodness over the evil that's being injected into this. They are there to anger you, to push your buttons, to get you out of character. You already have righteous indignation. Maintain it. Good people, no matter, again, what your stripe is, stand together with this family. Wish Richard well. Hopefully he gets the rehabilitation that's necessary. And then move on. But don't let them inject any hate into this. It's unnecessary. It isn't even warranted. I was sickened when I saw it. I didn't even expect that to happen, to even see that picture. But Mark in West Hartford posted that picture of those people sitting in the courtroom from Black Lives Matter 860. And the first thing ran through my mind was, what? This isn't even a case that looks like Michael Brown. Freddie Gray. Wasn't even the officer lost his life. But I have a theory. I do have a theory. And I hope members or supporters of Black Lives Matter 860 are listening. I have a feeling I know why you're there. And it goes a little something like this. You ain't got nothing. You ain't had a racial issue in months, in maybe a year or so. You've been isolated, set aside. You've had nothing to protest. You are desperate. You are desperate for relevance. You can't fundraise. You got no media attention. People have forgotten who you are. And out of desperation, you have attached yourself to a story where you have no wins. There's no upside to being there for Richard Barrington, a young man who is admitted to the crimes that he's committed, who is accepting his faith, is accepting his responsibility. This runs counter to everything that Black Lives Matter stands for. But in a desperate attempt to get in the paper or to have something written about you, you show up here. You should be ashamed of yourself. And everyone should respond by ignoring you. Not me, on the other hand. I'm here to beat up on these hustlers. Leave that to me. The only wind I will put under the sails of members of Black Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter 860 is a negative one. If anyone talks about them, if anyone even considers them a topic, it will be based upon me taking a big fat dump on them. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And when you were asked to leave, you should have. But I think we all know you're desperate. Why? Is nobody hanging a noose somewhere? No one using a racial slur? Huh? Are the white supremacists not coming out in droves to upset you or to anger you? Let me guess, the Juneteenth festivals weren't exactly all you hoped they would be? You found out that nobody really cares about the stuff you care about? And in being ignored, you figured you'd thrust yourself into a story that was unnecessary? Yeah, okay. Richard Barrington is not your martyr. No one thinks he is. He doesn't think he is. He doesn't think he's being unfairly treated here. He knows what he did, and he knows that no one is responsible for where he is today other than him. And no one's going to mix up that story or get it twisted, as the kids like to say. This is cut and dry. Dare I say, it's black and white. Richard Barrington broke the law and caused someone to lose their life. And now he's paying for it. All done. Now, you guys, y'all can go back, chill out at home, and wait until the NAACP's annual meeting, whatever that is, or protest the 4th of July, whatever it is it's got coming up. You can go do that. But it's kind of sad to watch this. If anything, we should all just get together. It's a perfect time to. Like I said, later on the show, we're either going to be speaking to Bobby Garten's brother, Will Garten. If we cannot get him, we've got on deck Sergeant James Ratowski, president of the Hartford Police Union, and also former police officer Jill Kiddick, who's also been a guest on this show. Lost my train of thought there. A guest on this show. We've got them all on deck should we not be able to get Will on the program. But I think he's very enthusiastic to get on and talk about his brother and talk about this court proceeding. A lot of people are down in the courtroom following this case, as we are here on WTIC. So stay tuned for that. The moment that we get word on a on a sentence, we will bring that to you immediately, if not through me, through John Silva. I do believe they're going to have a camera in the courtroom when the judge passes down sentencing. At least WTNH is showing that they have a camera that they've got set up for that. So if you're interested in that, you can do that as well. All right, stick around. Coming up, we've got more news and more views. The guys are they're texting me live from the courtroom. So if I get any details, I will. We've got Roseanne on the program today for Ladies' Night. We'll talk to her. And, of course, your phone calls. If you've got an airing of grievance, you could do that at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. Yeah, that's about it. We'll be back. Stick around. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Happy birthday to us. 100 years of serving Connecticut.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. We'll take a couple of your phone calls now. Don't forget, it's the airing of grievance Friday. So if you've got a grievance to air, along with your comment, you'll get an opportunity to do that as well. You know Friday's coming up, so if you've got a grievance you want to share, you definitely can. I got another word inside the courthouse. We're still waiting, and they're working their best to make sure that they can get to me as soon as we know. So again, if you're just joining us, we're keeping a very close eye on the sentencing of Richard Barrington. He is the young man, 20 years old, who is now being sentenced for the death of Detective Bobby Garin in 2023. And we'll either be talking to Bobby Garten's brother, Will Garten, Sergeant James Ratowski, the president of the Hartford Police Union, or former Hartford police officer Jill Kiddick. So they're all on deck, waiting for their opportunity. As soon as we hear from them, they'll probably be ringing up the phones. Let's go to the phones now. 860-522-WTIC. Christine is in Middletown. How are you?
Hi, Reese. Well, good morning. I was there in the court and outside the court for most of the morning this morning. So
what was the presence, if anything, of Black Lives Matter 860? Was it a large group, small group?
I didn't see much of a group outside.
Okay.
It was inside when we were allowed in,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on the third floor of the courtroom, so I had to use the facility. I thought it was in the second room, so I missed some of the excitement with Ivelisse. Here's what I know. Because I saw my own. She got kicked out.
Right.
And she got with Kathleen Walsh, who runs Blue Lives Matter Connecticut.
So Kathleen Walsh, who's been a guest here, and Ivelisse of Black Lives Matter 860 also has been a guest here, and the two of these folks, 22 of these ladies, had a confrontation that led to Ivelisse being removed.
All I know that Ivelisse was asked to leave the courthouse.
Wow.
And Kathleen, when I got there and I was with her, and the people were supporting, Bobby Garten and the family. And I said, she's from BLM 860, and I guess I mentioned her causing a ruckus at the Moms for Liberty Symposium in Avon a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then, why was she there? And that's when I posted a picture. I sent it to on the X from Mark.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I have an alias, so it wasn't.
I don't want to reveal the alias, but if the alias is a singer actress, isn't it?
Well, could be.
Yeah. Okay. No. It's one of my favorite singer actresses because when I saw it, I went, that can't be the right person. And now that you told me, good, I won't expose it. I won't tell. But okay, so that clears it up. I did see the picture.
But there's more. And so Kathleen goes to the marshal, and one of the marshals said, if she was kicked out, why is she back in? And the marshal wouldn't do anything.
Wow.
And then Italy got to go in with the people, for Richard, Barrington.
Yeah.
She got in to go inside the courtroom and sit. And when it was time for us to get in, there was not enough seats. So we're in a hallway in that little buffer between the courtroom and the lobby.
Right.
So we had to stand outside. So I'm going to I can't stand in. I'm going to stand in the lobby all the time. But that's when I left, and that's when I emailed you. But she caused all the trouble, asked to leave, and comes back. I thought that was insane.
Yeah. I don't even get the purpose of them being there. This is not a good PR move for them at all. It just isn't. And it's injecting themselves. They're bringing horrible attention to themselves. But you know what? That's fine. I would rather them stomp all over any degree of reputation they have left in showing up at this thing. This doesn't have to be what they're trying to make it be. But if anybody else has some details about that, I'll ask. In fact, I'll talk to either three of these folks that are going to call in and ask what that turned out, if there was any other, exercised displays by Ivelisse inside there. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Reese.
You got it. Let's go to my good friend, Matteo. What's going on, buddy?
Hello, Mr. Hopkins. How you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good, sir. What's up?
I forgot to call you yesterday and wish you happy Juneteenth, and I feel very bad about that.
No, please don't. I would have rather you didn't, and it's great that you've forgotten. But you know what you can do? You can call me up on Monday because I have another anniversary coming up on Monday. It's my sobriety anniversary on Monday, 6 years.
We'll definitely call it for.
Yeah.
But I was thinking on Juneteenth, right? This will solve all race relations. I'm telling you right now. Right? So every white person that is friends with a black person gets them a gift on Juneteenth. Okay, that takes care of reparations. Okay, reparations done, and black people will be actively seeking white people for friends because they want more gifts.
You know what? That is so asinine. It's brilliant. You're 100% right. You are absolutely right. But don't forget now, you make, like, if you're going to give a gift on Juneteenth, to maintain this friendship with the person you're buying gifts for, the gifts are going to have to be significant. Now, I'm not saying you should buy them a Lexus, but you
No, but at least the grill. Yeah, something good. Something good. Yeah. So what do you want for your Juneteenth gift? What do you want? Like a gift card to some restaurant in Connecticut and you finally get your butt up here?
A gift card would be fantastic. Yeah, why not? I'll take a gift card. I'm done with you. I love you. Thank you, man. I'm just done with you. Let's go to Mike in Plainville. Hello, Mike.
I'll tell you what, man. You and I have something in common.
What's that?
Monday's my anniversary, too.
Oh, congratulations. Hey, what's up? Why not?
13 years.
You got it. Okay.
And I'll tell you what it's like. It's like having the wind at your back all the time now.
It is. It is a perspective I never thought I'd have, man.
Crystal clear.
Yeah, it is. Exactly crystal clear.
Relationships are better. Everything's better. Food tastes better. I'll tell you what, it's, for me, it was a small miracle. I'm a Catholic. I do believe in miracles, large and small, and I happen to be involved in at least one in my life, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic feeling. My journey, very similar, but I think the miracle thing was I started to recognize little things as miracles as opposed to just great things that happened. I had to, sort of look at the world as a place where miracles happen, and then find also finding silver linings in sometimes things that were bad. I had to find the good in that.
Never realized. Now, here's the thing, okay? Picture me as the commissioner of the WNBA.
Okay.
I would have at least one day of teleconferences with the owners and the coaches, and I said, look, as of right now, this targeting is going to stop. Okay? And if it doesn't, the penalties are going to be severe. From your first, second, third, and fourth, okay? You commit that many, maybe you're not worthy enough to play in the league. It's starting to get out of hand. They've got to do something right now or else.
Sean Payton, do you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints was suspended, as were staffers, for what they called, what was that thing called, Roland? I know you remember it. It wasn't Hitgate. It was something.
Bounty scandal.
Bounty scandal. That's right. The bounty scandal.
Yeah.
That's
They're
right.
putting bounties out on opposing players.
Exactly. For bonuses. So I would implement that same rule, or at least a sort of idea of it, or some semblance of it. I would totally do that. And if it's independent, right? If coaches aren't responsible and are independent players, I would say, unpaid suspensions of like a week. That's a hefty salary.
I got a question for you quickly. You were going to bring up more dirt on the Democrats from the previous administration.
I did it yesterday.
You were going to do it yesterday.
I did.
You did. I missed it.
That's okay, because in the headlines, it turns out that Donald Trump has responded to said scandal. I'll have that in the headlines coming up.
It can't be much worse than we know already.
It's everything we already knew. But this time it's not the Russians, it's China. So we got that.
All right, thank you. Happy anniversary.
Thank you, man. You too. It's great to have somebody with the anniversary. I wanted to say that. I was going to talk about it a little bit, but I got a minute. I can say it. June is, Roland, weird enough, turned out to be my favorite month of any time of the year, because June, aside from the fact that it was the month that I got sober, it could be in the 23rd, but it was also the month that Roseanne and I started dating, June 15th. When I started my moving company, Keep It Moving, that was on June 8th. And my official date here is June 30th.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, you love Juneteenth and Pride Month.
Oh, shut up. That's right. Yes, I can't forget about those two things. But no, can you believe that? All of that's June. I meet my wife. We start dating in June. All of that. My entire life changed. Always have been started a business out of nowhere in June.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's why, right? All of some of the most amazing stuff has happened to me in that month. So,
yeah, my family's month is August.
Really?
Yeah, my grandmother on my mom's side, my grandmother and grandfather, they were married in August. They got a bunch of kids. They had 12 kids. They were all
born in August.
6 of them were born in August. And their last name is Augustine. So
maybe they just get frisky in November. Must
be. they had it planned, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. All right, we'll take another break. We'll be back. More news, more views, and any updates on the Richard Barrington sentencing when we return. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
The airing of grievances. Grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Still no updates. I'm paying attention, and I'm not getting anything so far on this story, but we've got plenty of news and plenty of views to get into today. Definitely coming up. In fact, let me go to these. Donald Trump has responded to the story I reported yesterday on the Chinese whistleblower who sent video of fake ballots that were coming into the United States. He's responded to that, so we'll have that. Another story I've got to talk about this. This one was out of the New Haven Register. And this story says 5 Connecticut schools are out of compliance with state school desegregation law. More at risk. And the problem with these are, just to give you a breakdown of how crazy this story is, the problem is that they have too many minorities in these 5 schools. Upwards of 46 to 65% minorities at the school, and that's therefore saying that the schools are not in compliance. I guess in some weird way they're saying there are not enough white kids in the schools, but, you know, that could be for a host of reasons. So we'll talk about that in the story. Andrew gave us a story that I want to talk about a little bit. Still no information on it. Plus, I don't think that there's any immediate interest in getting to the bottom of it, but it's the story of Stacy, the 8-year-old boy, Stacy Glasgow, who was shot and killed in his home. And I'm hoping, maybe, Andrew, if you're listening, call me back. If I'm getting this story right, one of the published reports say, now think about this, a gun was found in the backyard of where little Stacy was killed. But if this story is right, as I read it, the boy was on a 3rd-floor apartment when he was shot. No one seems to know when or where the boy was shot, if it was outside the home or inside the home. And at least all news reports seem to be scarce, but there has been no reporting on this since March 20th. And still no details yet. I looked around. I'm not finding anything. We're already in June and still do not have any answers on how this 8-year-old died from a gunshot wound. Unless somebody else has seen the report that I may have missed, let me know. We'll get into that as well. Also coming up, will you be the Between Rounds winner today of a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe? Well, we will let you know in the 4 o'clock hour. At the top of the hour, we will be announcing the winner there. If you'd like to participate, go now to ReeseOnTheRadio.com. That's REESE on the radio.com. And fill out the form. Must live in Connecticut and may not have won within the last 30 days in order to participate. And we'll read the winner when we get to the 4 o'clock hour. Also, don't forget, we got Roseanne on the radio, my better half coming on. We're going to talk about a story where people are upset, and this is a wild story. People are angry about a woman who was kept alive while pregnant so that she could deliver her baby to term. It's a very, very interesting story in the whole pro-life, pro-choice, pro-abortion argument. a woman by the name of Adriana Smith. And the usual suspects are upset. But it doesn't mean, so this woman is dying. And they keep her alive because she's pregnant. And they keep her alive long enough to give birth to the baby that is now alive, so that the woman could then, I guess, be taken off life support. But we'll talk about that. I want to talk about it with Roseanne, because you may remember in our origin story, Roseanne and I, one of the biggest and best arguments where we knew we liked each other, or we were interested in one another, was a debate that we had coming out of the mall, yelling at each other about abortion rights in the country. And she was arguing with me. She's pro-life. She's pro-choice. I'm pro-life. And we were arguing with one another, but we had like the biggest smiles on our face. And this was an argument that actually attracted each other to it. Kind of sadistic, I get it. But that's what happened. So this story, I want to get her take on it as somebody with that in that position. So we'll get into that as well. Plus your phone calls. If you want to air a grievance, give us a call at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. How could I forget this? Did you guys see the commercial that Democrats are running about immigration? If you haven't seen, I got to play it for you. It's the most insane thing ever, primarily because of the last line in the commercial. If you haven't seen it, you have got to stick around for this. It's insane. I got to play it for you coming up. Maybe we'll do that. You know what? We'll do that during headlines when we come back, okay? Stick around. Again, more news, more views. We've got news coming up with John Silva. Then we got weather coming up with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's at the BPS Traffic Center. John Silva actually covers all of that in the next hour, so stay tuned for him so you can find out what the roads are like as well. There's a lot of inclement weather that's happening in the area, but we'll be back. All right, John Silva's coming at you with news right now. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
The airing of grievances. Grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, it's the airing of grievance on this Friday on WTIC News Talk 1080. Let's get to some headlines. Ilhan Omar is in a headline. She ended up deleting a Juneteenth post after she was called out for present-day slavery in Somalia. She wrote, quote, 160 years ago on June 19th, 1865, slavery ended in this country. Today, we celebrate Black freedom, resilience, and achievement and continue to work to root out systematic racism from our policies and institutions. Omar immediately deleted the post after a response from a guy named Gunther Eagleman. You may remember him. He wrote, quote, Somalia still has slaves. Ilhan should go fight to free her own people. So Ilhan Omar has been silent ever since. Nothing comes to mind. Do you remember that? That was the line that failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris delivered on The View when she was asked by Sunny Houston Houston, is there anything that she would have done differently than her boss in the Biden administration? Well, now Sunny Houston Houston is suggesting that that viral moment may have been the end to Kamala Harris's bid to become president of the United States. Apparently, she was on our podcast that airs after The View, and she says that she believes that viral moment may have been her undoing. She felt as though it was responsible for her to ask the question, but she still takes responsibility. Typical. President Trump is now chiming in on a story from yesterday about evidence that the Chinese government was involved in the 2020 election. He wrote on Truth Social today, quote, 0 border crossings for the month for Trump versus the 60,000 for Sleepy. Sleepy crooked Joe Biden, he says, a man who lost the 2020 presidential election by a landslide. He said that Biden grossly incompetent and the 2020 election was a total fraud. The evidence is massive and overwhelming, responding to a report that Chuck Grassley received from the FBI Director Kash Patel. I haven't heard a story like this since the days of Tony Randall. Those of you who are old enough will remember. Tony Randall was one of the few that in his 70s sired a child. Well, we can now add Frazier's Kelsey Grammer to that list of people. He's reportedly going to become a father for the 8th time at the age of 70. It turns out that the wife that he is with, what's her name? Walsh? I can't remember his wife's name. Oh, Kate Walsh. That's her name. She has a weird spelling of her name. She's 46 years old, and she shares 3 children with Kelsey Grammer, again, out of the 8. I don't know anybody else who has children over 70. My wife doesn't want me to have any kids at 55. Says I'm too old. He'll be 90 by the time that kid is on his last year of college. Should he live that long, and we wish him a long life. You also may have heard...
Yeah, he's rich, though.
Yeah, he's rich, right? So you might be able to.
He has a lot of help.
Yes. You may have heard that foreign ministers are now negotiating in Europe to end the war in Iran, or at least to come to the negotiation table. Well, Iran says that they will not negotiate over its nuclear program if Israel continues to hammer the Islamic Republic, according to Reuters today. Foreign ministers have so far confirmed that. They are saying that now as they're meeting with European leaders as well as American leaders on trying to get this resolved. So they're asking Israel, knock it off, stop bombing us, and then we'll come to the negotiation table. I don't know whether or not that's going to happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll see. We'll still keep an eye, of course, out on the sentencing and seeing if anything is happening. There has been, from what I see here, and this is real, on WTNH.com, they have a TV camera that is set up inside the courtroom. It may be like a CCTV deal. And it's right now, it's sort of, what is that, a rainbow thing that they put on the screen before they go live. So we're still waiting. I guess the only portion, because there have been proceedings going on in the courtroom. Lawyers have been speaking on Richard Barrington's behalf, as well as the prosecutor who is speaking on Bobby Garten's behalf. And that has led to recesses between them as they go back and forth. This is very long and drawn out. I don't know if that means I've never understood how this goes on, but I don't know if the judge is taking those things into consideration. Is that the reason for the recess? Is there something else going on? Or is it possible, that's quite possible, that the judge could have other cases that he has to preside over? So the intermissions are because he's going to those hearings. I couldn't imagine that was the only thing on his docket today, if I'm to understand the whole judge stuff. Also in the news, I don't know if you heard about this, union protesters vandalized the Yankee Institute billboard outside the governor's mansion. They said during a union-organized rally last night outside the governor's mansion to pressure Governor Lamont to sign the SB 8, a digital billboard truck operated by the Yankee Institute was vandalized. The vehicle displaying messages critical of a controversial labor-backed bill that would give striking workers unemployment benefits was struck with rocks. Witnesses reported rally-goers attempting to pry the screen off the truck. Now the vendor who owns the truck is reconsidering doing business in Connecticut. They say, quote, "There is no place for intimidation, violence, or silencing of our political discourse." This is the president of the Yankee Institute, Carol Platt LeBeau. We call on elected officials in our state to join us in telling union leaders and lawmakers, especially those who attended the protest, to reject this conduct loudly and forcefully. I got to tell you, fat chance. That's who these people are. Violence, intimidation, destruction. That's what this is. It's not about civil discourse. Again, it's like I said earlier about BLM 860. When you are desperate and you have no, argument, debate, answers for the questions being asked of you, you resort to violence because you're ashamed. Anger it's low-hanging fruit. Anybody can fall into that trap. But when you are cornered and there's no way out, you have no reasonable argument for where you stand, you always resort to violence. That's just right. And you've seen the videos on X and other social media. You've even seen it on the news where people lose their collective minds. And it's always because they don't have an answer. Ask them a legitimate question, a fair question, and they'll start screaming in your face, spitting at you. That's what these people do. They don't want to, and I've said this before, so if I'm repeating it, I apologize, but bear with me. You have to understand what the psyche is of someone who behaves like this. It's the violence and the screaming and the hollering and the cursing and the spitting, all of that stuff. I don't have a reasonable answer for you, but you must adhere to me. Because I'm right, because I say so. I'm morally superior, I'm morally right, I have the moral high ground. You must adhere. And their excuse for spitting on you or cursing at you or lunging at you or physically assaulting you, you are inherently evil because you don't agree. Like, what is wrong with you? You can't see it my way. Clearly, there's something wrong with you. And that means that because there's something wrong with you, you must be pummeled with my fist. You can justify, you remember when they used to scream that, punch a Nazi, Hey, why'd you punch that man? You're not supposed to physically assault him, but he's a Nazi. We can punch a Nazi, right? But he has human rights. No, he can't. He's a Nazi. But he says he's not a Nazi. It doesn't matter. I think he's a Nazi. Why is he a Nazi? Well, he doesn't agree. He doesn't see it my way. Hey, I voted for Donald Trump. You're a racist. But I'm black. Blacks can be racist. That's who they are. That's how they operate. That's their reason. And of course, you can say whatever you want about these folks, and they're never going to heal. It's just again, they're morally superior. They know that what they speak of is the truth. Pushing back, what for? Nobody cares. They don't care. White Mike says that reports of a 4.3 earthquake in Iran. He says either Trump dropped a bunker buster or the deep state is acting independently, or it's an actual earthquake. We're going to take the Arkham Razor approach on this one. That is probably the simplest answer in all of this. We'll just say it was an earthquake. And try to stay away from the conspiracy theories, of course, until we find out otherwise. But let's just call it what it is right now, an earthquake. By the way, before I go to the phones, be sure to go to WTIC.com. I want to say this, and I'll grab, never mind, they're gone. I want to say this, and let me thank Roland and Janine and everybody who's responsible at WTIC.com. So if you go to WTIC.com, you'll see, if you go to shows and podcasts, you will see that Reese on the Radio has been added, right? So podcasts, at least. You'll see Reese on the Radio has been added on there. And I'm very, very proud that I am. I am going to say something. Please don't accuse me of being corny. I promise you I'm not trying to be corny for the sake of being corny. This is genuinely how I feel. a lot of people say I'm arrogant. And they're partially right. I'm sure everybody's a little bit arrogant, but I'm considerably arrogant. I will say that. But I'll tell you something I rarely share. I am always seeking to be worthy. Now, what do I mean? You've heard me say, I'm not trying to be a part of anybody's club. I'm not. I mean that. There is no contradiction here. But when I say worthy, it's because what I do here, I believe in order for me to have this role here, I must be worthy of your attention. You listening to this show, right? Giving you something entertaining to think about, to laugh about, to consider, to call, to yuck with me. And so I'm always looking to be worthy of the kind comments you leave and the emails and text messages you guys send me. Always looking to be worthy of the accolades you give me. So when I see something like this that WTIC does for me and puts up such effort in, I always say to myself, am I worthy? I don't take that for granted. So it is humbling, and it makes me very proud to be a part of this network, be a part of Connecticut, and to be a part of your lives. So trust me when I tell you, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. So, again, I want to thank the folks at WTIC, Odyssey, Stephanie, Steve, Janine, Joey, and my Emmy Award-winning producer, Roland, who makes me look so damn good. And, of course, all of you. I'm not going to take that call yet. Courtney Ann wants to go at it with me. Should I give her a shot? I feel like I should. She's still very livid about yesterday's conversation related to Juneteenth, but maybe I will. She's very livid about that. She says, Reese, you're such an amazing guy. You are more than worthy. You deserve every bit of it. Thank you, Courtney. I do appreciate that. And Donald says, Reese, you're not a racist. You've just lost your mind. I know that's what people believe about me, but that's okay. It's like, at least people engage. That's what it is. But I know this is the part. I'll tell you this. This is very, very true. And I'm saying this to the people who often go back and forth at me, online or even on the show. Please know this. I am not bragging when I say this, and I am not trying to, as we say, punk you in any way. I know when I have you cornered. I'm well aware when you're cornered. When you are lost, when you are caught in your own contradiction, when you are talking in a circular way or using doublespeak, I am patiently waiting for the kill shot. And here's why. And this is to help you in your debate with me. One, know I'm always looking for the opening. You're going to give it to me. If you're on the left, if you are progressive, if you disagree with me, I know you're going to expose yourself. You're going to expose your hypocrisy, your racism, your bigotry. You're going to expose it because you can't, because you're emotional. I am not. I'm not an emotional person. I'm very calculated in my debates. Because I understand your emotion and because I know that you wear your heart on your sleeve, I am going to expose you. That's the best advice I can give you in your debates. Because remember, when you stand for something, it can't be out of emotion. It must be calculated. In other words, there can be no flaws. One thing has to represent the other. And it must have a free flow of ideals. One can't contradict each other. And if it does, it's irrational. That's how that works. So I don't mind if you want to go toe-to-toe with me, but I'm watching you. I don't think, see, that's what Donald says in the chat room, because you think you're always right. Let me stop you there, Donald. I know. Belief is for people who lack knowledge. I'll say it again. It's a Reeseism. Belief is for people who lack knowledge. Because if you don't know, you'll believe anything. I'll say it again. Get used to it. Belief is for people who lack knowledge. Because if you don't know, you'll believe anything. So when I come at you, if I don't know, I will tell you I don't know. If you want me to know if you want to know what I believe, I will preface, this is what I believe. But I never go into an argument without talking about things that I know. For certain. And that's the reason why I always win. And it's easy to do. It's easy. Because I don't play the games of hypotheticals. I don't play the games of what if. What if this happened? What if that? Anything could happen. Somebody tells me, well, what if this happened? Well, what if a rainbow shot out my butt? Anything could happen. We could just come up with any scenario in the world, can we? And make that a thing. So, again, I don't think I'm always right. I know when I'm right. We can take a break here?
We have to.
Yeah, that's right. We have to take a break here. All right, when we come back, why not? We'll give Courtney a shot when we return. Stick around. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
All right, we're back. WTIC NewsTalk 1080. And look, as much as I know I'm walking into a buzzsaw with this, I'm going to try it anyway. By the way, I did hear from Sergeant Rutkowski. I was asking him about whether or not there was a beef that it took place inside the courthouse. He didn't see anything like that. He did suggest that there was a lady who was recording in the courthouse and taking pictures in the courtroom, and the marshals asked that individual to leave. That isn't to say that was Evilise of Black Lives Matter 860, but that's what he says happened inside the courtroom that he witnessed. So we'll get some more details from that when we do get a phone call from them. Also, for those of you just stand by, just to let you know, oh, wait a minute, looks like something's happening. We finally have a live feed at WTNH. So no one's come out. This is outside the courthouse. By the way, if anybody else has any details, just get on the phones quickly and just let me know, or let me know inside the chat room if you've heard anything. Okay, so yesterday I was talking about Juneteenth, and White Mike, who is a provocateur, and as I like to call him, an anthropologist of African-American history, or at least pop culture today, came up and said some things talking about how the culture has been damaging to the African-American community, saying to pretty much wash their hands of it, saying the black community, get your kids to be as white as possible, have them listen to pop music from the 80s and 90s, and stay away from the culture, the hip-hop culture today, because it's detrimental to them. Well, some people took some issues with that, and one in particular is a regular guest here on the show, Courtney Ann from Courtney's Courtroom on WTIC. Hello, Courtney. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. So you took a lot of issues yesterday in the chat room with what White Mike had to say. So without going off on a tangent, just give me what your issue was.
That's what I was going to say. First, I don't have any issues with what White Mike said, because I mean, his opinion is his opinion. I can understand even where he's coming from. I don't agree with it, but I can understand how he might have gotten there. So I didn't come here to shame or down anyone. I just came to offer another perspective, and then you guys can take it or leave it. So White Mike started off with talking about the IQ test, and he then broke it down and said, well, really, the IQ test is about patterns. So he said that's saying that basically black folks' patterns is janky, to sum it up. So I wanted to first touch on that. I can understand it, though. So I wanted to touch on that, though, when we're talking about patterns. First, I was going to ask him, are you born with a pattern? Is it in your blood, or is it something that's learned?
I don't think
we
that.
can all agree that it's.
Let me just to sort of give it a context to what White Mike was talking about. What he's saying here is that if you're following the pattern culturally in the United States with African Americans, that's what he's saying as far as he used the IQ test as being determined based upon knowing what one pattern and the second pattern and the third and the fourth pattern. That's how IQ tests are formed. He's not suggesting that African Americans can't pass an IQ test. He was using that as a template for his statement. And that is, if you follow this... No, he wasn't.
He definitely said his exact words were black people are the lowest of the people out of every
That was a
race.
separate comment. He's saying that throughout history, right? Throughout history, where have we seen the culture go? We're following a pattern. Okay. It is usually, and you can agree with this, and I know you have privately, that the state of our young people in the African-American community is far worse than we even saw that in the 80s and 90s. Sure, we had our rabble-rousers and we had the wiling days of the 1980s and early 90s. We had the gangster rap culture of the mid-90s to the 2000s. But we've never seen anything like this. This is really bad. Yes?
Okay, right. So, I mean, yes, it is. Let me finish let me just finish up on the patterns part. So I wanted to say to White Mike, patterns are something that your brain, it's like your brain's love language. It's like your brain's way of creating a way of you to cope with the world, to understand the world in your own way, to be as peaceful as possible for you, right? It's definitely a learned thing. So I wanted to say to him, he's referring to like black people as having bad patterns, but I feel like he's not giving acknowledgement to the fact that these patterns are patterns of survival, trauma, systematic neglect, forced adaptation. Like we all have seen the wild, what is that, on the animals where they're in the wild, and you see what survival looks like. It's ugly. You know what I'm saying? Like it is. And so even no matter what you want, I believe even like the poverty is not subject to just black people. It just happens to be more minorities there. But poverty, those patterns that poverty creates are kind of being like shunned as if anybody has a choice to have a different pattern. You have to learn survival patterns in that environment. But moving on from that, I also feel like we're not giving any credit to this. So we all know black people, the slavery thing was messed up. We all can agree on that, right?
Okay.
I feel like there's never been a time. Okay, so black people were first ripped from Africa. The few that made it here. Okay.
Sold in Africa.
I'm saying whether they were sold doesn't. I'm saying they were ripped from the people.
Sold. Context matters, Courtney.
Yeah.
Context matters.
It doesn't matter when you're the person being sold.
No. They weren't sold They weren't sold by white folks. They were sold by Africans. Africans sold by Africans, and that matters.
It does matter. It doesn't matter for what I'm saying, though. But I do agree. Who else would have sold them? So when slaves were brought into America, the treatment that they received was horrible. They were stripped of their everything. They weren't even allowed to get education. They were denied everything, right? So fast forward to when they were freed, there has never been a time in history of America that anybody took the time to go fix what was done. Nobody, when in the
That's
time,
false.
When in the history, hold on, let me finish, Reese. First off, let me finish. When in the history of America has anybody went to black people and said, hey, this is how you act? Because after they were freed, they had a whole new set of problems. They had to deal with the Jim Crow. They had to deal with so many different things. And then, hold on, let me say this, though. And even through all of that, they persevered, and they actually came out on top. There was a period of time where it was beautiful to be black in America. It was a beautiful thing. There was love going around. The community was thriving. Guess what happened to every community? Every community back then that was thriving and it was all black got destroyed. And some of them got massacred. Multiple communities. Some of them got taken out by eminent domain. It's not here to say, oh, hold on, wait, I'm almost done. It's not here to say, woe is me, because you're already ready to defend it. I'm not here to argue with you.
I'm not here trying to defend.
I'm
Courtney.
just here to offer another different perspective. Hold on, wait. So
you're giving me a lot to cover, Courtney. With all due respect, Courtney, you're giving me a lot to cover, And I have to do that as succinctly as I possibly can because you're everywhere and there are so many things that I need to address. But you're talking about like so much that I'm never going to be able to do that, and people are going to lose their place because it's on the radio. It's a little different than that. So that's why I got to stop you. So hear me out. Let me start by saying this. One, okay? You can't start a debate by suggesting who taught black people. That's nonsense. There are elements.
Wait,
no.
Mean?
Let me finish. There are elements of success all around us. In fact, even in black communities. Okay? There are elements of success all around us. Every day has always been, since the days of Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, Dr. Charles Drew, Ida B. Wells, Madam C.J. Another thing that people keep talking about black people in a very disparaging way, I cannot go for. We are not animals that need to be.
Go for
let me finish. You cannot treat us.
You didn't let me finish.
Well, I did. I actually let you go on for a while. You cannot turn around and tell me that we are animals who need to be trained in a zoo. We're not.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
That.
You said no people have taught us, but we had examples of this
all
all
around.
You're
not being realistic. People, you're taught when you Reese, Mr. Reese on the radio. Who you are today was through teachings among whoever it is you got your teachings from. We all were taught. Our parents, some of us were lucky enough to have parents, great parents who raised us. I'm one of those. I had a great mother who instilled a lot of great things in me, so I'm blessed. And some of us had to maybe learn from others or self-taught, but we all had to learn to become who we are today.
And who is to teach us?
We weren't just born like this. Exactly my point. So who was to teach us? So who was your teacher? It just depends on who your teacher was, right?
I had plenty of teachers.
I mean, right, me as well. And that's why we came out different, though, right? We came out a little bit different than what you would call the majority of how the majority of black people walk. They walk with the crowd, and we don't walk with the crowd. I would say.
Oh,
so
I think you just explained something to me.
And there are definitely many people that are lucky enough to be taught by a different kind of teaching, because we all can see from what you look at even White Mike. White Mike is white, and if he can see it, and if I can see it, if you can see it, there is a mentality that is passed down from generation to generation to generation amongst the black community.
So,
now,
okay, wait. Now I got to stop you.
Okay.
I got to stop you here. So what you're telling me is that black people's teaching throughout history is mutually substitutable.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, mutually substitutable.
I don't know what mutually substitutable means.
Okay, you don't see black people as individuals. You see them as a collective, yes?
Well, what do you mean? I see everybody as individuals.
No. See, that's the problem.
I'm not sure what
that's why I'm going to explain it. I'll explain it when we get back. But we do have to take a break and right now. So we'll take a break. I'll explain what that means. And that's what I say. We'll never, ever have enough time. You always got to call earlier. But that's okay. We'll figure this out.
I called earlier.
No. When I say earlier, the show starts at 2. The show starts at 2. I got much more time. That's okay.
It's 1 o'clock.
Your time. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views, and more Courtney when we return. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
All right, we'll get back to Courtney real quick because, again, this is one of those discussions that you have to have for like 2 hours in order to do this. Courtney, what I meant by mutually substitutable, right, is that there is a collective thinking within the African-American community, and that I understand. You and I both get that, bottom line, that a collective thinking is that this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, and they all collectively feel that way. Even though our experiences are different in the black community, meaning that how we grow up, what we grow up with, the influences, the things that get us inspired or get us outraged or causes us to make decisions in our lives. We are all individually challenged in our own way. What you are conflating here is a collective a collective mindset versus a collective outcome. There is none. There's no such thing as a
I
collective.
didn't say that.
I know there isn't. I'm explaining to you what the mindset is. The collective outcome is what people describe. They don't know that they're describing it, but that's what you're doing. You're doing what's called a collective, a collective outcome. You're saying black people experience this. That's the collective outcome. That's never been the case. Each black person has what's sort of a collective thought, like, what's called a stereotype. It was like, oh, the white man is racist. Oh, this country was born on systemic racism.
Now you're talking about all type of three. You're saying I'm everywhere. You're talking about so many different things. I said poverty. I even made sure to say poverty is not just to black people. Poverty, what poverty creates, the mindset that poverty creates, the survival skills that you.
And you think that's universal?
And the way of life. And I think that just is no. I think that goes to poverty.
Okay,
now,
no. But Courtney, you can't be saying you're
is,
saying both things at the same time. You said poverty.
What do you mean?
No, listen. You're saying poverty, general word.
Yes.
Poverty, general word. Poverty affects us the same? No. Poverty reaches us the same? No. Of course it doesn't. My poverty is different from your poverty. The reason why I was poor is different from...
Poverty is poverty.
No, it is not.
It doesn't matter why you're poor.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
Poor and why, if you were poor, yes, so listen, what I'm saying, you're so defensive. I'm not even here to be defensive. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter how someone is poor. And I'm not even talking about just being poor. I'm talking about poverty in itself. Everybody has one in their town. We know where to go. We're talking about poverty and we want to see it on the streets. We know what side of town to go to. That part of town, create that mind frame and mentality is one in itself.
Courtney, just so I can, because I've only got 30 seconds, let me respond to you.
Right.
You said.
Yeah, but you're putting words in my mouth.
No, actually,
what I'm saying is black people have never, like, what the growing up as a white person in those times, you were free to be free. And you didn't have to worry about or have a survival mindset.
Universally, right, Courtney? Universally, every white person.
If that's what you want to.
No, that's what you said.
You're trying to make it about every white person when you know that there are always the different apples of everything. So if you want to make it about every single person, you can't even say that about anything.
Okay,
and
Courtney,
White Mike was definitely talking about all black people.
Actually, that's the reason why I corrected him, but you guys didn't hear that. I got to go to traffic, but Courtney, I promise you we'll have this discussion again in a much more elongated form, maybe even this weekend. God bless you. You know I love you. I got to go. Let's get a first check of our weather and traffic with Jason Katarina and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. All right, we're back. It's Reese on the radio. It is ladies' night. Roseanne is also in the house. Let me actually get her camera on. Say hello to everyone, my dear.
Hi.
So right now we're still waiting on people. They're filing out of the Hartford Supreme Courthouse. Right now we're just waiting for that press conference to begin. Like I said, we'll take it if necessary. I thought I saw Sergeant Ratowski walk out. The guy who walked out was wearing a uniform, looked just like him. But I just spoke to Ratowski, and he just said, no, that was not him. So I apologize for stating that earlier. But right now, it looks like someone is stepping up to the podium. Let me see if I can grab a little bit of this. I don't hear any volume on this, though. I don't think that it says they're taking it live, but we can't hear anything. So if they decide to turn the volume on, I guess we'll join it, whatever the case is. How are you, Roseanne?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. So we got plenty of stuff to talk about. There are people on the phones who have been dying to get on.
And no arguments this week to talk about.
Yeah, we have no arguments this week,
look at
right?
us. We're growing as a couple.
And
I love it.
And you know what? This is the first week where we had no arguments. And interestingly enough, the reason why is because I took you out to dilly-dally. I took you out to go dilly-dally and walk around Target.
We did dilly-dally.
Yeah, so I actually got you out of the house, and you were able to spend money, which apparently is the great equalizer. Yeah, we'll talk about all of that and more. Let me get to a couple of phones, if you don't mind. Some people are on hold. Let's go to John in Meriden. Hello, John.
Hello, Reese. Hello, Roseanne.
Hello.
John here.
Hey, John.
I've been hearing on the different shows before your show about the Passe Comitatus Act and the National Guard.
Yes.
the Passe Comotanis Act applies only to regular Army, not the National Guard.
Correct.
That is why we ended up with Waco, which was National Guard troops and not regular Army. Then we have today that the Ninth Circuit Court tells President Trump that he, and what's a wonderful thing, that he can use the National Guard.
Right. Did you find it interesting that the Ninth Circuit Court did that? Because there have been some major changes in that court, which used to be extremely liberal. You didn't have a chance in heck to get a conservative president to get anything. But once it went to the Ninth Circuit, you were done for. And it's been interesting that the Ninth Circuit has actually been able to get some conservative judges on there, and has had a complete
I agree.
swing.
Yes, there has been a big change
Yeah,
there.
right?
And one of them is an appointee from President Obama.
That is correct.
And it was all three voted yes. And I'm sure they looked up the Passe Comotanis Act and said, yes, the National Guard can be used, but not regular troops, regular Army.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Reese. Thank you, Roseanne, and have a blessed, wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too. Let's go to Dave in Ellington. Hello, Dave.
Roseanne,
Yes, sir.
slap him in the head once a day just to keep him in line.
I throat chop him.
Okay?
You would
Just
like
to keep
that.
him honest,
It's a throat chop.
slap him in the head once a day. So, the Ninth Circuit Court. Wow. Look at that.
I know.
Liberals all over the world. We're in the Ninth Circuit Court. Now, all of a sudden, we don't care so much?
Well, I would put it this way. The reason why I say that about the Ninth Circuit Court with regards to John's call, I don't know if you remember in 2008, it was called Proposition 8 in California. And
oh, yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah. Proposition 8 was a proposition to acknowledge gay marriage in the state. Not to. I apologize. Not to acknowledge gay marriage in the state. And there were plenty of actors and celebrities who were doing commercials to vote it down. Well, sure enough, it was voted up. In fact, they realized that even though they're a small group, African Americans who were kind of the push on that decision, 74% of African Americans who voted on the referendum in 2008 because they showed up for Barack Obama in that election voted for Proposition 8. Well, the Ninth Circuit Court, after the fact,
let me tell you this.
Don't interrupt. They overturned it. They overturned it, the Ninth Circuit Court, because they said that the vote of the people, they don't know what they're talking about. They're not smart enough to realize what they were voting for, and turned it over against the will of the people. It was unheard of, and no one ever challenged it thereafter. I'm sorry, Dave. Now go.
Now I look at people and say, I don't know nothing about nothing.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now think about it. This guy served 2 years, only got 14 years for killing a cop.
Well, he's got, technically 16. I don't, like I said, this is one of those things that I am not attached to, so I can't give my assessment of this.
Just wait till the guards get a hold of him.
I don't think that. First of all, you don't need that happening.
Forgetting
Watch.
Hold on.
Wait till the guards get a hold of him.
All right.
Or he agreed to manslaughter.
Right. He pled guilty.
The difference between manslaughter and murder is a lack of intent.
Right.
Or a lack of what do you call it? Premeditation.
Right.
This was a reckless, careless act that a child. Let's be honest. Frontal lobe development is not there. This is still a child. It was a very deadly act. It was egregious. It was erroneous. There was no malice. There was no premeditation. So, I mean, I understand that the desire is there, but, we have to think about this like realistically. This is a child who made a stupid error. He's going to pay for this for a very long time. He is going to have this on his record for the rest of his life. He's never going to be free of this.
Right.
We have to look at some of those facts. There's no malice. There's no premeditation. it was just a crappy thing that happened.
And a call on his part. And I mentioned this earlier. The thing that blows my mind about this young man is we are not looking at a child who had a criminal record to run from.
Because you're stupid.
Right? And I'm saying to myself, and I throw this in with accountability. Young people and the word accountability. He
like
ran
oil and vinegar.
Right. He ran 2 red lights safely. He was pulled over by police. He probably would have gotten a year, maybe even probation, whatever the case may have been.
Probably just lost his driver's license.
Exactly.
That's
Whatever it may have been, that's what his consequences were. But everyone would have lived if he had just been accountable for being caught for doing something wrong.
Can I just add that I think another part of it too is this desire to be about the culture. There's that underlying. There's this sort of gravitas.
That we run from.
There's a gravitas that goes to being able to tell your buddies, yeah, man, I got pulled over and I ran away from the cops and I got arrested. You know, it's a little time. It's about street cred, I think. Like there's a little bit of that probably is nobody's considering. You get a stupid kid doing stupid things, making stupid decisions. You've given him a 5,000-pound weapon with which to be stupid. You know, he's got consequences he's going to suffer, and, you know.
Do you think that the family was asking for 40 years?
Listen,
yeah.
I understand that that's their desire, right? You did me wrong. You took away my loved one. I got it. However, the family doesn't get to make that decision. There's a reason why an impartial party makes that decision.
Yeah.
The judge is not emotionally involved. The jury is not emotionally involved. They can see the facts for what they are. And they made a decision somewhere in the middle. Everybody suffers. Everybody loses. It's painful for everyone involved. Justice has been served.
Is there a righteous indignation for them not getting what they want? Or do you believe that they should reconcile with things are the way that they are and move on? Should they let this consume them?
I don't think you ever move on from. I mean, I've not lost.
No. I mean,
someone,
move on.
right?
Move on from.
I've not lost anyone, so moving on doesn't seem like something one can do. What they can do now is maybe find a way to reconcile this with themselves, find peace with themselves. Maybe go out into the community and start advocating to young children, young boys in particular, how stupid their decisions can be. Look, this took my father, my husband, my son. And, you can take any bad situation and make it, a good one, or at least have some worth, some value so that it's not in vain.
Right. I'm getting this. Okay, so this is coming in from Mark. He says, tell Roseanne that he had a prior existing criminal record to this incident. All criminal references were erased or expunged when he turned 18.
Because he was a minor.
Right. Apparently, he stole cars and hurt people in his underage years. This wasn't the first encounter with cops or breaking the law.
Oh, that changes everything.
Well, no. It does.
Still,
I mean, it does change everything. But I'm looking at this again.
There is a pattern of behavior. See, what was conveyed to me was this is the first offense. This kid's never been in trouble
That's
before.
what the report says.
So we were intentionally misled.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why. Yeah. But still, this was not malicious. This was not premeditated.
But even in the case of this
was a stupid act committed by a stupid child.
But even in this case, if his juvenile record was not going to have any bearing on the incident where he was pulled over, because again, they are separate, and that's how the criminal justice system works. In essence, this would have been his first occurrence as an adult. So again, I don't think it's either here nor there. There is a pattern of behavior. There's a psychology.
There's a
mindset behind
there's
a mindset behind this by running from the cops. But again, that's the tightrope. As I always tell people, there are consequences to what you do, and I think in this case, this was fatal and accidental nonetheless, but was fatal. But now it brings to the question, and I promise I'll get to the phones in a second, in the next break. But what I think is something we should consider here is when we are looking for, and I don't want to suggest that Mark is saying it, but hear me out here. Because of his juvenile record and because he had a pattern of these things, are we holding him accountable for this incident or prior, right? It's like he did this before, so now this incident and taking this life, we have to take every one of his prior and then apply that to what he did in this case.
That is called double jeopardy.
Right.
If he's been convicted previously, it's called double jeopardy. It's against the law. You can't do that, right? Certain things can be taken into consideration. He does have a criminal record. Whether that was admitted into the court or not, I don't know. But ultimately, at the end, what they're prosecuting, what they did prosecute, was this action, right? It was not premeditated. There was no malice. It was a stupid error made by a stupid child. If you look back at his criminal record as a juvenile, you can see stupid behavior by a stupid child his entire life. If his parents are fighting so hard, for his legal battle right now, where were they while he was doing these things?
Right.
Where were the whoopings? Where were the punishment?
Minimal consequences.
Where was Dad?
Yeah. And I really do believe that from the victim's family's point of view, I know they are charged, when I say emotionally, on the past stuff, saying that because of that behavior, it led to this.
It's the but-for test.
Yeah, but-for,
his, previous release would this have occurred? And the answer is we don't know. We don't live in a world of hypothetical. Right. However, it doesn't serve a fruitful future if you're going to spend all of your life dwelling on this horrible thing. At some point, you're going to have to reconcile that this is the hand that you are dealt. What are you going to do with it now?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a perspective. Thank you, and I thank you for putting that. Like I said, I didn't know exactly how to frame this, because I can't put myself in the shoes of the family. I can't put myself in the shoes of having a child that had committed something like this. So where would my emotions go?
I would have beat the curly hair off of my little 18-year-old. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way that boy barely speeds.
Yeah, I hear you. We're going to take your phone calls when we take this little short intermission for a little bit to get some traffic, some weather, and, of course, the bottom of the hour news. I'm sure John Silva is going to have some more updates on this case as well in his report. So stick around for that, and we got much, much more. Telephone number is 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. It's Reese on the radio, chilling out with his better half, Roseanne, on the radio, when we return. Here's Jason Katerina and Mark Christopher. They're in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Hey, locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
My dumb butt didn't push the button. We're back. It's Reese on the radio. You probably didn't hear me. I was trying to keep Jessica on the line. Jessica, if you can, call back at 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Peter in Canton. How are you, Peter?
I'm good. How you doing?
What's going on?
Not too much. I'm lily white, so I can't presume to know the mindset of the African American. But it's you keep your mind straight, stay out of drugs, stay out of alcohol, and you work hard, and you can change your mindset.
That's how it works.
Can I just say that works for all people?
Whites or blacks.
Yeah, that's what I think is the point he was making. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely, Peter. I think that's always going to be the case. Again, like I said, people are injecting something into this case that doesn't need to be there. Yeah. The kid,
Courtney overcomplicated it tremendously.
Yes, and I think that's the purpose.
She had two jigsaw puzzles, and she spilled them both on the rug and picked all the pieces up and put them in both boxes. She couldn't put the puzzle together with the wrong pieces.
Exactly the case. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. You got it. Let's go to Mark in Windsor. Hello, Mark.
Hello. Greetings to all the men and women listeners out there. I enjoy the show. I enjoy the input.
Thank you.
I have to say, your honey is incorrect.
Okay, that's it. She's here for it.
Bring it.
Yeah, that young man is a young man at 18 years old, and he's a seasoned criminal. Sorry, I'm not sorry. I take it back. He's a seasoned criminal. He was, as a juvenile, he was robbing and stealing, and he got a wealth of choices. And it does matter when it comes to when he eventually killed that cop, because he wasn't changing. He was not going to change, and he's not going to change. At 18, he was the person. He is the person he was going to be.
Let me ask you a question. Are you the same man today that you were when you were 18? Or have you seen an error in some of your past behavior and made adjustments?
I've seen the error in my past behavior, and I've made
and that's
adjustments.
What I'm saying. This was a child,
the thing is,
psychologically and mentally, in brain development, like biologically, this was a child. The frontal lobe is not fully developed until the age of 25. That is science. There's nothing that I'm, saying that isn't backed in science. The frontal lobe is the part of the brain that deals with decision making. Now, something like this did need to happen. He did need to face extreme consequences in order for him, hopefully, to someday see the error in his ways. But you're right. The track he was going on was not changing. He needed consequences, but he was still a child intellectually, like biologically, still a child.
That him being a child or an adolescent, it does not negate
that.
the
I don't.
Consequences.
Mark, hold on for a quick second. I want to give you an opportunity to finish your thought, because this is a great discussion. Let's get to another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
We got so much show to get into. I'll give Mark a chance to come back so the two of you can continue your conversation, Roseanne, about the young man, Richard Barrington, who has now officially been sentenced to 30 years, 16 on good behavior, has already served 2. So in essence, he'll do another 14 if he performs well during his rehabilitation. But I want to read this comment inside the chat room. This one comes from Mark M. He says, Roseanne is clueless. Defending a criminal like she is makes me sick. You take a life, you should serve life regardless of age. I'm going to cut your mic off because you're going to respond, and I don't want you to respond. Okay, let's start over. Roseanne is clueless. Defending a criminal like she is makes me sick. You take a life, you should serve life regardless of age. Stop making excuses for this sickening behavior. She sounds like a liberal. Now, I'm going to let Roseanne defend herself, but I just want, I got to, Mark, you're a good guy. I'm sure you are, and I can clearly see it in your passion here, because you feel like the family should get their pound of flesh, if not more. Okay, so I don't need to cast aspersions on you to make a point or in order to defend my wife. She's a grown woman. She could do that herself. But I do need to address it in this way as the host. As Roseanne was laying out, I started out by saying, I don't know how to take this, because I can respond emotionally as to how it affects me and be outraged and say, oh, the man should serve life in prison. I don't think that's rational. What Roseanne is doing is exactly what I did in this case. And that was take it from where the law allows you to go. And impartial. And if you listen to everything she said, and I'll give her an opportunity to repeat it, following the law, which is not emotion, being impartial, which is their role, is to look at the case. Now, is there going to be a degree of bias on the judge looking at his age, looking at the law, looking at how it may affect him? We know there are activist judges out there. Absolutely. That all plays a role. But if you were listening to her, she didn't draw emotion from it. She said, this is a child who made a mistake, as she's putting it. And when I say a mistake, and that is running from the cops was a mistake. Taking the person's life was not premeditated. We know that. It was not malicious intent. We know that. His intent was to get away from the cops. His actions led to the death of the police officer. And does that warrant outrage? Of course it does. But she's only responding to it in an impartial way. She's trying to be fair-handed here in that. And as Mark is displaying here from Windsor, he disagrees with her, and he's explaining why. Just disagree. Doesn't have to be, she sounds like a liberal. She's just viewing this differently than you are. And she's doing it without emotion because she has nothing invested in it. Does that make her a criminal? Does that make her, insensitive? Okay, I guess. But again, she's just going to give her point. So let's get back to Mark, because I want him to come back to exchange. Mark, what was the last thing you were saying, if you can remember, to Roseanne so she could respond?
Well, I was saying that I disagree with your honey, Roseanne.
Yes, Roseanne.
She's wrong.
Okay.
The guy, he was going to be the person he was.
Mm-hmm.
And this dude, his pattern, his reckless, dangerous pattern of behavior took him right where it was going to. The dude was stealing cars and running from the police. And eventually he killed a police officer. Roseanne, she wants to give him a pass because
no,
she
that's not
feels
what she said.
Because let Mark finish, because you're going to hang up. And I won't
she doesn't want to give him a pass, though. That's clear. She doesn't want to give him a pass.
She does. She's in tune with the poor sentencing. This man got 14 years for killing a police officer.
How much time did you spend studying the law? That's my question.
If we don't value the lives of police officers in our community enough to prosecute this man longer than 14 years, whose life can we value in the community? Police officers are our last line of defense, one of the last lines of defense in the community, and this man is getting away with just 14 years. That's a travesty.
Provided, and this is Mark, and that's we don't have the foresight to know what his life is going to be like in jail or in prison, for that matter. 14 years is what he is going to be served in the event that he is out on good behavior. But he was sentenced to 30. If he does not make parole, there's a likelihood that he can do all of the time that he has been given. They gave him an out. The judge made that decision. But again, you're saying that she's taking the side of. I don't know. I'm not understanding where you get.
Yeah, because, she says, you go with, the science says, he was juvenile and kids aren't developed. That does no good to this dead police officer or the
all right, I'm going to go and chime in now.
Okay.
My son's father is a police officer. My son's grandfather, police officer. My son's aunt,
I don't dispute any
police
of that.
officers.
I don't dispute that.
I'm sorry, I'm speaking now, right? That's how it works. I
Mark,
value police officers
come on.
tremendously. I value law enforcement tremendously. I married into it. I myself served in the military. My primary company, the first company I ever was senior medic to, was an MP company. So I have a very high value for law enforcement. I've also studied the law. I've studied medicine. There are things that I know logically that may not necessarily sit well with how you feel about something. But again, the law isn't based on how people feel. This is based in fact. This is based on documents that were written devoid of emotion. Do I agree? Is 14 years long enough? If my son had killed someone, I don't think I would be happy with him getting 14 years. If someone killed my son, 14 years wouldn't be enough. However, I'm not the one that's prosecuting. I'm not the one that's judging this person. That's what the judicial system is for. It's not my job. It's not your job to decide who gets what and when. That is for the court system.
And that's the part, Mark, that I'm asking people in this case. I get the emotional response to it, saying that this kid has a long history of such and such, and that's what he should be graded on in this. I totally get that. And I'm looking at it from that lens, from how do I emotionally respond to this? But as a person who's analyzing this and having a conversation with people, I'm going to say I don't know whether or not it is fitting for 14 years. I don't know if it's fitting for 30 with 16 years. I can't tell. I don't know the mindset of the judge in this case. But I do understand people's disappointment or outrage on it. I think that the two can exist. Is that fair?
No.
Okay.
And my reasoning, my perspective is not emotional.
Okay.
It's not. It's just me looking at a pattern of type of behavior, not just from this man, but from other people his age that are habitual offenders.
Right.
And I think that the court system and this judge especially, I don't know who he is, I don't know this judge, but they've failed society. The man he should be incarcerated much longer than 14 years because to protect society.
Right. And you're looking at this from a precedence level. Like this act should set a precedent so that other kids who see this as a template for this is where your behavior
That's not a precedent.
accidental.
That's not a precedent. That's setting an example.
There
is legal precedent that does exist.
Well,
I can go and look online there's some legal websites where you can look up legal precedent.
Okay, that's a good idea. You do that.
Let's do that then.
I think,
but
you do that. But I think that the it's charged the crime. Disregard his age, because we use his age and he was a child and he wasn't developed. We use that to mitigate the sentencing. No, stop. It doesn't mitigate this man is dead. It doesn't mitigate the loss that his family is feeling. Charge the crime. This man
but more
killed
time's
another
not
man,
going to bring him back. It's just
it's not, and that's not the point of it. None of this, but more time
the point of
will
justice,
protect more society. Roseanne, let me finish. Just
go ahead. Hurry up.
More time that he's giving will give more time to society to not be at risk of his behavior. He has already demonstrated to you a propensity to disregard your life. The man killed somebody, and it's definitive. He can't take that back. Am I the same person I was when I was 18? No. Have I done things but most of them I think I have repented for or am still trying to repent for.
I guess it depends on how other people feel
murder,
that you've done wrong.
He can never. That man can never. He can never, ever, ever. There's nothing he can do to rectify or repent or redeem himself to society or those people whose child he took.
I understand that. Mark, and look, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. I know it is heavy-handed there, but I know you understand that there are other people who disagree with. Did he just hang up? Did we just lose him? Whatever. But yeah,
I'll let him go.
Okay, I totally understand that there are people. Again, I said this before. I'll say it again. It is. I don't know. It's easy. It's easy for a lot of things. It's my job to do that over and over again. But again, in this case, taking someone's life, I understand where the parents were looking for, the family for that matter.
Listen, if somebody took my son's life or your life, I would be under the jail. I don't care. I couldn't live my life personally. I couldn't live without you or my son. That would be the end of me.
Can I just for the audience to know, because the way they're responding to it, are you stepping away from this and looking at it like down the line objectively?
I'm not looking at this. I'm not the victim here,
right.
And I'm not putting myself in the victim's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that. If you're going to be impartial, if you're going to study the law, if you're going to study medicine, you have to learn how to separate yourself from the client, from the patient. You have to be clinical in these dealings, right? This kid was stupid. And for Donald there on Facebook, this was a black kid. So stop saying all this weirdness about it not being a black kid. This isn't about how I feel about it. This isn't about his family never gets to see him again. I know that.
You do run the risk of getting that ire because they think you're being...
I get it.
Okay.
But that's not the point. The point isn't how you feel about it. Does it suck? It probably abso-freaking-lutely sucks.
Right.
They will never get to see that man again. Their father, their brother, their son. They will never get him back. I understand that. But this was a child. Biologically, his frontal lobe is not developed. I don't care what anybody thinks about this. This is science. He was not mentally capable of making the best decisions. He could make decisions, which is why 18 to 25-year-old men or 16 to 25 pay higher car insurance, have higher life insurance premiums, because y'all do dumb crap and die, okay? Y'all do dumb crap.
Understood.
He did a really stupid, crappy thing. The absence of malice, the absence of premeditation. Those are things that you cannot create out of thin air. You can't just, you know what, well, I don't like what he did, so put him in prison for life. That's not how the justice system works. I'm sorry you don't like it.
Nor should
I don't like it either. But you know what? Run for office. Change the laws. Stop griping at me. Don't call me clueless.
Nobody's griping at you.
I'm getting called clueless. Come on.
Well, first of all, you have to take that. I'm just saying it comes with the territory.
We can have a conversation like grown-ups. We can be logical. We can disagree all day long.
Right.
But this isn't me being clueless or having no idea what I'm talking about. I actually do know what I'm talking about. In fact, you should show them some of those books back there on your shelf, my law books.
Oh, yeah, that's
one of the things I studied in college. I mean, I know what I'm talking about.
I know you do. You can deal. I know you can deal with it.
I'm a little irritated right now. Like, how dare you question my intelligence? Like, I'm not going to sit here and spew garbage.
I don't think they're questioning your intelligence. I think what it is, and I think in this case, is having your beliefs challenged or someone having a disagreement in this position can rub people the wrong way. But like I said, that's the tightrope, right?
Right.
The tightrope is having your opinion and someone disagreeing with it and making it either personal or their own personal plight to say, oh, you're wrong, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's really not that.
I can appreciate that you disagree. Absolutely. If someone took you or my son from me, I would not be okay. Yeah. 14 years would not make me happy. I would not feel content. I could watch them die by lethal injection. I would still not be happy. It would not be enough justice as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
Right? So I understand that. But again, we have to think about this pragmatically. We have to understand that we have a justice system that was put in place for a reason. We need to just, drink water, drive on, Will.
All right. With that, we'll move on. And we'll continue taking your phone calls at 860-522-WTIC. You in the gauntlet today. We'll be back. Let's get some weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, stand by. As promised, we will have Will Garten on the program in the next break, so stand by for that. We'll talk to him about the sentencing of Richard Barrington today inside the courtroom, find out exactly why this took so long throughout the day. We didn't get a verdict until roughly about 4 o'clock today. We'll talk about the process, ask him some questions about if there was this interaction that we were hearing going on with Black Lives Matter, 860 being there, if there was anything that he saw there that gave him pause. So we'll talk to Will in a moment, so stand by for that. And we're happy to have him on the program to talk about his brother, what they were trying to accomplish today in the courtroom, and if there's any satisfaction in the judge's decision. Also, I'd like to make sure that we announce today, because we have to do it, our Between Rounds winner today is Giancarlo A., who is from Rocky Hill. Today, he is our winner of the dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, located in South Windsor, Manchester, and Vernon. And you can also pick up Between Rounds bagels at your Big Y stores. So if you want to win a chance to get a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, go to reeseontheradio.com. That's REESE on the radio.com. Look for the form. Must be a resident of Connecticut and cannot have won within the last 6 months. Please make sure you put in your telephone number. You cannot win if you don't put in your telephone number. Don't worry, I won't call you unless you want me to. I won't. Nobody will be giving your telephone number other than Between Rounds. I promise you. I saw some entries that didn't have the telephone numbers in there. You must leave your telephone number so somebody can contact you as well. So I promise you, Reese on Radio will not harass you or give you phone calls. All right? Stand by for that. Like I said, Will Garten, the brother of the slain officer, Bobby Garin, will be on the program. Let's get a check of your weather and traffic again with Jason Caterina and Mark Christophers in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Drop it. All right, we are back on News Talk 1080 WTIC. And again, as promised, and we'd like to thank him for gracing us with a phone call today, Mr. Will Garten. He is the brother of Detective Bobby Garin, who was killed in 2023 because of the actions of Richard Barrington, who was sentenced today in Hartford. William, thank you for joining the show, and I appreciate you doing it today under these circumstances. How you doing otherwise?
I'm not doing great, to be honest with you. I won't sugarcoat it at all for you. I feel, like I kind of said in my speech, I just feel like a complete failure, and I let my family down. I let Bobby down. We weren't able to convey on how important Bobby was to us, to Judge Gold. We got out-acted by the cowboy lawyer. Mm-hmm. We got out-acted by Barrington, thinking that he can just say, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure Judge Gold got maybe made up letters about Richard Barrington. I just feel very defeated and feel like a failure today. So,
and you use the term failure, and I'm assuming that is because you could not convince this judge to give what you and your family were looking for, and that was what would have been the life expectancy of Detective Bobby Garin, 41 years in prison for this young man. If you could assess anything, what do you think was a mitigating factor in the sentence we got today, which was 16 years, 30 years with 16 years suspended? What do you think led to that, if you could point out anything, or from the judge's speech?
The 3 letters that he read in the slowest I've ever seen a man read a letter, really driving home how great Barrington was before. He is 18 years old, so he's an adult, clean record. However, he stole a car in the youth, but he can't use that in court. But
Right.
We can say it here, you and I.
Sure.
But this isn't his first time. And when they showed the video of how fast that car was going and hitting my brother and Brian's cruiser, I think 40 years might have been too less. He had no remorse for any human being, let alone 2 police officers who would not have been there at that time if they weren't trying to save somebody else.
You said the judge, was it the judge or the lawyer who read the letter on Barrington's behalf? Was it the judge who read them out loud?
Yes.
Now, I find that a little unorthodox. I usually that letter, tell me if I'm wrong here, isn't that usually written by or read by the attorney for Barrington, his defense attorney? The judge reading that, did you see that as being a little unorthodox, as if he was setting you up for the sentence he was about to lay down, like sort of soften the blow? Did you get that impression?
Unfortunately, I don't have much. I really don't know what orthodox, what's normal, what's this. I kind of just, I look at Wolcott and I kind of just say, was this normal? She said yes, or she said no. So I'm not sure. I'm not educated enough to speak on that. So I'd put that to disservice.
Sure.
Do I feel like he I would say he had a monologue, if you would, a monologue that tore emotions left and right from both sides. And he wanted to have everyone harping on every word that he was saying, like it was a theater, like it was a daytime drama. Mm-hmm. And he kept us intrigued, and he whipped our emotions for a very long time. And that's what he came out with at the end.
If you're just joining us, we're on the phone with Will Garten. He is the brother of Detective Bobby Garin, who was killed in 2023 at the hands of Richard Barrington, the 18-year-old at the time, who crashed into his vehicle, killing Bobby Garin and injuring his partner. And his partner's name, and forgive me because I need to mention him as well.
Yes, Brian Carney.
Yeah, Brian Carney, yes. And I knew the name. I couldn't get it off the top of my head. It's in my notes, but I apologize. And so there was something that I thought was odd about this, because this court case began at about, 10:30 today, if I'm correct, or was it earlier?
No, Judge Gold likes to run late, so I don't think we got started till 11.
Okay, so 11 o'clock. We don't get a sentence until about 4. And from what I understand, I was getting briefings from Sergeant James Rutowski, the police union president. He was telling me that there was a lot of recesses going on between lawyer statements, prosecutor statements, written letters. that was something that seemed to be dragging on. Was there a reason given to you why there were so many recesses?
I think the one of the biggest reason was to swap out some of the staff, give them a break, because we were going for so long. And then the other half is the cowboy, their lawyer, Atkins. He talked, I want to say, for an hour and a half, making ridiculous excuses. Barrington talked for about 2 minutes. The judge, I felt like, talked forever with no substance whatsoever. It was a lot. I didn't listen a lot because I knew it wasn't going to help any situation. I just prayed to get through it, and I'm out here in the sun, and we're out, and there's a lot of work to be done. And we need to start looking at what society we want for our kids. Because Judge Gold sent a clear message today that running from the police is okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of people have that sentiment that we're talking to about this on the air. There's been some disagreement on this, like, the letter of the law, what is or what isn't admissible in cases like this. I know from your perspective, and I'm sure that I'm right here, as you just expressed, you believe that his prior action should have played a role in his disregard for human life in 2023. Of course, that took Bobby's life. And how much of that, if you're looking at, like, what part of this is playing a role in your outrage at the way that the judge looked at it? Are you upset that the law does not consider that behavior? Do you want the law to be changed? Like, where are you looking at this? Because I know you feel shorted. I know you feel slighted. Your family does. But if you were to say that something is a miscarriage of the law or a miscarriage of justice, where would you put that today?
That's the big question that I'm going to reflect about over the weekend. But I think the biggest thing that we can kind of come the true people, the people that want to see this world be a better place, we can come together and we can say, hey, if you run from the police, that's a felony. Not a felony B, just make it a felony. You run from the police, it's got to be it doesn't matter if no one got hurt. Doesn't matter what happens after. Stop running from the police. You saw the guy that ran from the police and he shot himself in the leg. I mean,
yeah.
But you can't be running from the police, and nothing ends good. And I was always told when you're youthful and the police officers are always like, don't make me run. You're gonna make it worse. I mean, when did we stop, talking to people like real human beings and not just a stat on a page?
Yeah. Was Bobby your older or younger brother? I know he was 34.
He was my younger. Yeah, he was my younger brother. It was my responsibility, and I kind of let him down.
Don't feel that way. I know that there's nothing I can say to you that can convince you of otherwise. But I do know the love and the care and the protective nature of big brothers. I've got 2 younger brothers, so I feel the same way. I'm thinking about them as I'm thinking about your brother and saying to myself, how could I cope? And it would feel a degree of responsibility. Your brother, listen, the reason why this is a story is because, and there are so many people who are impacted by his life being taken, and the response to this has been overwhelming. Everybody wants justice for you and your family, and they do feel as though his life was shorted, the value of his life was shorted in a lot of ways, so you're not alone in this. I don't know what you're planning on doing, what your family's planning on doing, other than mourning the loss and sort of, I don't know, trying to reel in what the emotions are, what's going on. What's next for your family, your mom, your dad, everybody? What's next aside from sort of reeling all of this in and figuring stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, I have a big vision board of what I want to do with the Detective Bobby Garin Memorial Fund. So there's a column on my wall, I want a field in Ghana. I want a emergency fund so fallen officers don't need to pay for their own funerals, which I think is ridiculous. I think just being able to help someone in a time of need, because we were there and we have some, and we're able to come in and we're able to help them like that. And there's no paperwork, there's no nothing. It's just a check, go do what you got to do. I think that would be incredible. And I feel like Bobby would really, really love that. Personally, on my side, I want to see laws changed. I want to see stiffer penalties. I want people to stop hiding behind their youthful juvenile, and I want to see them be held accountable for their entire life.
Mm. Apparently, from what I hear, there were some, I'm going to use the term, you don't have to co-sign this. There were some undesirables that arrived at the courthouse today. Was there any interaction with your family or your folks or people who were there supporting Bobby? Did you have any interaction with them, or did you just ignore their presence?
No, the lady was taking pictures through the window in the courthouse, and I pointed it out to the marshals, and the marshals actually got it really under control and sent her outside. They're like, "Hey, you're out of here." Then they were overruled by someone, someone way higher, that she was then allowed back in to the courthouse. There was no outburst from what I could understand, or that I saw, but we were warned that there might have been an outburst.
We did. Yeah, we heard that there was a back and forth between a member of Blue Lives Matter as well as this particular group. Or one of the individuals in that group. I thought that was a little tacky, especially under these circumstances, to inject that kind of tone into this. Somebody's being held accountable for something that they've done, and to try to inject other things outside of that. I thought those were things. Well, it was a little tacky.
They're opportunists. That's all.
Indeed.
They're opportunists. That's all they ever were, and all they're ever going to be. We're seeing that it's not working.
Yeah, and it shouldn't.
Let's get together and make it better.
Right.
For sure.
Because, what they don't realize is that the actions of Richard Barrington could have affected anybody in the street who was coming through that intersection. And what would they have been like if it had been somebody in their family? That was the moment that everyone should be reflecting and saying, what would I do then? And trying to inject something that had no place in this, where we should have been, getting this kid to be held accountable for his actions, and remembering and respecting the life of Detective Bobby Garin should have been the case. But as you said, these folks are opportunists making it about themselves. I'm glad you didn't let that get to you, or your family let that get to you. And you stood fast, regardless of the outcome and what the judge decided. I just want to say thank you, Will. Thank you for being here. You have my number. Whatever you want to do, whatever foundation for your brother you want to do, please do not hesitate to contact me. You've got my cell phone number, okay? And you've got absolute direct contact to this show, okay?
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all your thoughts and prayers.
You got it, sir. As everybody here in the WTIC family. Thank you, Will. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
You got it. Will Garten, ladies and gentlemen, brother of slain officer Detective Bobby Garin. We'll take another break. Let's get some weather, traffic, and some news. Jason Catarina's got weather. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Odyssey app lets you jump back to the moments you missed from WTIC News Talk 1080. Download the free Odyssey app. Search WTIC News Talk 1080 and tap earlier today to get started.
All right, we're back. It's Reese on the radio, News Talk 1080 WTIC. Plenty of phone calls we didn't get a chance to get to, but I want to thank Will Garten for calling up the show as promised. He didn't have to, and I'm sure that there are plenty of people who wish to talk to him. And we had very limited time and sort of spur. I wasn't sure I was going to get him on here. I didn't know that. I really didn't know that the sentence was going to be that. But what could you tell from him as far as his assessment of the judge in this case? Because you've been debating with people online and on the show, Roseanne.
Yeah,
about
I heard a lot of emotion Right.
Clearly.
And it brought me to, like, listening to him made me tear up. I can't imagine, especially when he said that about not being able to protect his little brother like that. That hurts. That really hurts. But I think.
Do you think the judge was, from what he said about the whole
I think
kind of filibustering of the judge?
I think that I would prefer to have a less biased witness who saw the, because what looks like monologuing or peacocking to me in the midst of my
grief.
Yeah, I mean, it could appear that way. And he did say that he wasn't listening to a lot of what was being said. I've watched a few sentencings myself. I understand what goes into it, what the judge is saying, his dissents,
I'll push back on you to say this. And I'm listening to this objectively, knowing that coming from William's point of view, this is his brother. He is literally in shame, feels as though, he didn't protect his brother and has put a lot of this burden on himself. Mm-hmm. I understand it, but then I don't understand it. That's a whole other conversation. Right. But as I'm listening to this, there was a part of it where I'm listening and going, from 11 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock to get to the sentencing, I feel like the judge had plenty of time to come up with this, dragging this out in a way in which it was done almost seemed superfluous at best. And I know, even if it's bias on Will's part, I feel like it was. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Well, you heard him say that the defense attorney spoke for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
The kid spoke. Everybody has to speak. They got to switch people out. There's a lot going on in a
4
courtroom.
hours just seems way too much. I don't know. That's just the way I'm looking at it. Let's get another check of our weather and traffic, and when we return, we'll take your phone calls. Here's Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is. You know who it is. You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're back, and we're pretty much ready to wrap this up. Roseanne, you all ready? You sure to go? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Anyway, let's go through the motions. We got plenty of calls, plenty of people who wish to opine. Let's get to them. 860-522-WTIC before we wrap this up for the weekend. Let's go to Jeff in Marlboro. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Reese. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, sir. What's up?
So I got a question for Rose. Actually, I have a couple questions and a comment, but let's see what we get.
Let's see what happens.
My question for Roseanne is, she, was talking about studying law, and I did a little bit too. I have a associate's degree in criminal justice, and I want to speak to her about the mens rea.
Okay.
Of leaving a traffic stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she's, she's probably familiar with that term, right, Roseanne?
Yeah.
And when he left that traffic stop, that guilty mind followed everything that he did after that.
Right, but does that equate to murder? Mens rea also has to come into part when it comes to, felony murder, again, requires intent, and it requires premeditation. There was no mens rea regarding intent or premeditation.
Because he happened upon...
Fleeing
He had the mens rea to leave the traffic stop.
Right, but was he in the mindset to commit a murder?
Everything he did after that follows that and carries the same weight.
To some degree, but there's differences between criminal justice and legal studies, right? Legal studies is studying the actual prosecution of law. Criminal justice is, more of your law enforcement type. So there's a huge difference in understanding how those two work. There is a path that you have to take to go from the initial act all the way to the final act, and if certain elements are missing, you cannot prosecute. There are elements missing to make this a felony murder case.
Does that answer?
Leaving a traffic stop a felony?
That I don't know. I do know, however, he was not intentional in killing the police officer. There's a lack of intent. There is a lack of malice, right?
Yeah,
You're trying to use the but for.
When you rob a store and you kill someone, that's felony murder. If leaving a traffic stop is a felony, then.
But what were the actions? Hold on, Jeff, because see, that's a slippery slope. If you rob a store and you murder the storekeep, it is the action like, how did the storekeep die? He used a gun or a knife to then inflict deadly harm.
It doesn't. As my understanding is, Reese, it doesn't matter if you committed a felony and then a murder happened during the felony. That's felony murder.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not making the connection, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I'm kind of going to look at this as Roseanne is putting it, and that is, can you make the leap from leaving the traffic stop and then lead that to felony murder because he was charged with?
Okay, real quick. So I'm looking at the Connecticut law. I'm not familiar with Connecticut law because I didn't study for Connecticut law. I'm looking at it right here that fleeing a traffic stop is actually a Class A misdemeanor. It's not a felony. That is the Connecticut General Statute 14-223 Bravo. This offense is typically a Class A misdemeanor, but under certain conditions, it can escalate to a Class D felony, but that is at the discretion of law enforcement or the prosecuting attorney. So
Class D misdemeanor.
Class A
Class
misdemeanor.
D misdemeanor is classified as a crime.
It is a crime.
Yeah, Class A misdemeanor is what she said. A Class D felony.
If
it can be.
If they decide to pursue it as such. But in order for it to be a murder while committing, it has to be committing a murder while in the act of committing a felony. He did not commit a felony, not by Connecticut state law, at least what I'm reading thus far. He committed a misdemeanor. The lack of intent, the lack of malice, the lack of premeditation. I mean, there are elements that you have to put together as an attorney. There are elements that need to be put together in order to create a viable case for murder. There's no viable case for murder. If they had a viable case for murder, they would not have offered him manslaughter.
Well, manslaughter seems pretty weak. He should have had at least
agreed.
Yeah, it's like he should have had at least a murder charge on. I forget what it's called.
I think in this case, what they did was, and clearly it's an indication of the prosecutor here, running a risk of a trial in a particular jurisdiction. In
a very liberal jurisdiction, a black defendant,
right?
They weren't going to get a conviction.
There's a likelihood that you don't get a conviction, which all plays a mitigating factor. The sentencing is something completely separate, but the prosecution is always based upon those mitigating factors.
And if I can say personally, I think that any officer who is injured, disfigured, or murdered, dies in the midst of doing their duties, this includes canine, I think that should be, state law needs to be written that those are murder. Like, that's murder. Right. You've taken the life of a law enforcement officer to include a canine. I believe you should face murder. That's my personal opinion. That is not, however, the law.
Jeff, last word.
That's the other point I wanted to talk to Roseanne about, is talk to your lawmakers about getting stiffer sentences.
Absolutely.
We're not satisfied with this sentence. You need to have stiffer sentencing issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your patience as well. Let's go to Sean in Meriden. Hello, Sean.
Real quick, you guys are amazing. I've learned so much in the last 40 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
But one of the things that my heart goes out to the gentleman who lost his brother, because my brother was murdered by a friend.
Wow.
So that hits home.
Yeah.
And they didn't even look for him for a while, and so I can understand when you feel like justice was not done.
Yeah.
So I totally get that, and I appreciate you guys educating all of us as to the laws, because number one, Senator Blumenthal and I went toe to toe because I'm a independent social worker, as you know.
Yes.
And I've worked with guys who have beat their wives or tried to kill their wives and their children. And Senator Blumenthal worked really hard to get them on light sentences. So you're the gentleman, and you are absolutely right. You need to change the law.
Yeah.
Because the deal is, in Connecticut, they are lenient towards the criminal.
Yeah.
That is something I'm learning. I'm learning that more and more every day.
And I watched that for 21 years, and I'm like, I got so pissed off. Someone called me yesterday to actually donate money. I said, when you're willing to go and change the laws so that we actually follow the laws, and it's not because you're black or you're white or you're green or you're blue or you're purple, you're from Mars, your mother, it doesn't make a difference. The law be the law. And from what the gentleman said, and we're in an era of the grandstand, and let's get our 15 minutes worth of fame.
Yeah, I do. But
Judge.
Sean, you make a good point. I was thinking that too, with the sort of dragged out court proceeding, because there were so many eyeballs from the news media on this, that you kind of get caught up in the fame of it all, or the 15 minutes, Andy Warhol, sort of scope. But thank you, Sean. Let me get to some others before we get out of here. I appreciate you, buddy. You got it. You too. Have a great weekend. James is in Durham. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. First of all, Roseanne,
yes.
I learned something new from you today.
Why, thank you.
You said you were a medic assigned to an MP company?
I was, yep. I was in the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard.
45 plus years ago, I served in as an MP. Thank you very much.
Cool, thank you.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I'm going to take this to a whole different perspective that nobody has talked about. And I don't know. I want your opinions on this. I'm just going to put it out there.
Okay.
Okay. This so-called man-child, who is now a man, as far as the laws are concerned,
sure,
he's an adult man, is and I got two. There's two facts to truth that I'm going to say. So this is the first one. All right. But the way the law is written, and I understand the law is the law is the law. The way the law is written, his juvenile record had to be hidden, couldn't bring it out.
Right.
That's fine. Okay, but now this is a serious charge and a serious incident. And here's where I'm going to take it to an entire different level. He's already served 2 years in jail. Now he's going to prison.
Mm-hmm.
If it hasn't he's going in there with a badge of honor. I don't think there's going to be any rehabilitation on this guy's part, like something that Mark from Windsor was saying, but he wasn't getting directly to it.
Okay, that's a great.
There with a badge of honor.
Right.
He killed a police officer. I think either the Black Muslims or the Black Panthers, and I have 3 direct family members in the Department of Correction, and because of that, I know people within the Department of Correction.
Right.
This guy is going to be protected
and embraced,
and they're going to take one of those groups is going to take him under his wing, and he's going to come out harder than he went in. So that's number one. Tell me what you think.
Well, James, let me say, because I don't have enough time for the second one, but I do have to let you go, but I will answer it for you. So please listen, because we do have to literally call it a day, but I will answer you for you. And thank you for the call and that point of view. James is 100% on that level, but let me sort of play devil's advocate with that. If indeed he is embraced by the likes of those individuals, the likelihood that he will face rehabilitation and be on good behavior is slim to none. Because in those groups, they are known, those little gangs or those little subsets inside the prison, those are up to no good. There is not a lot of do your time and be quiet. So if indeed he gets with those wrong people, with the wrong, types inside there, there's not going to be a future for him in getting out or any parole for him or suspended sentence.
There's a lot that I don't know about this kid, where he grew up, what his home life was like, what his grades were like, what kind of student he was. All of these things do play a factor in who this person was, right?
Indeed.
But what I do know about him thus far, what I've just learned in the last, however long I've been sitting here, is he had a juvenile record, stealing cars, behaving in a manner that was not good, right? I don't believe, and remember I said, I think that even if it was first time offense and is living for the culture, this child is obviously, this young man is obviously living for the grandiosity of exploiting Black victimhood. And this is exactly as was mentioned. It is a badge of honor. He killed a police officer. He was fleeing police. Now he gets to walk in there, big man on campus. He's been there for 2 years. He's probably already got a little group of people.
But in my view, in my view, I you have to be careful of the company you keep in those
absolutely.
places. And again, if he is indeed sort of enveloped by that criminal element that is inside the prisons, if he is praised or looked up, he is more than likely going to get in more trouble inside that system.
And that 16 suspended is no longer suspended.
Exactly.
And he may even find himself, with more charges while he's incarcerated. Yeah. And you know what? It's going to have to be what it's going to be. I mean, sometimes we don't see God's hands moving. They just are, and it's up to us to be patient.
Yep. That's us for today. You guys have a wonderful weekend. And thank you, Roseanne. Say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. She is Roseanne on the radio. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Roland, have a great one. Make that 30 grand, and can I have?
That's next weekend.
It's next weekend.
Can I hold some?
I want to buy $1. Let's get to our BPS Traffic Center with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Good night, Mark. Have a great weekend.
You too, Reese. Thank you very much. And if you're heading into Hartford right now,
all right. Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, sir. That was a little heated. Roseanne was getting a little bit of heat there.
Did I do okay?
Yeah, I had to let him go.
You had to let him go? He was I think he was getting a little personal.
Yeah, no, it's just because I could get the sense that he was being dismissive. So I was like, I gotta let him go.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell a host, yeah, you go do that. Like, come on now. Yeah, I get it. I know that's what comes with it, but after a certain point, you just gotta let me shut this off.
Indeed. Thank you, boss man. I appreciate you.
Y'all enjoy y'all weekend.
All right, Dean, you guys.
Southbound Parkway delays from
row to row. I got you.
Tunnel and 95 southbound.
All right, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that, and good on you. Thank you, everybody, for participating today in the chat room. Lively as usual. I hope the show is doing a service to you guys. You come here every day. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. Disagree or not. I really do appreciate you. It's I walk out of here every day feeling a little better about my day. And I'm very lucky and very fortunate. Like I said, please go to WTIC.com. They've actually put a page on there. I don't think I've ever felt more uncomfortable. And if I could...
You're the most humble, arrogant person I've ever met.
Yeah, isn't that weird, right? Like, you know what it is? There's a part of me that says, like, I saw it today. Roland was like, go see it today. It's on the website. And as soon as I saw it, there was a degree of me that said, I don't know if I deserve all of that. Like, that's way too much.
Why don't you let other people decide what you deserve, since you're uncomfortable with accepting what you deserve?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm proud of you, I think. Yeah.
I know.
Everybody should hear you all of the time.
Thanks, babe. I appreciate you. God, there was so much stuff we didn't get into. We're going to save it for Monday. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. Thank you, guys. Everybody. Really, really, really. You have no idea. Love you. Susan, have a great weekend. We'll talk over the weekend. Susan and I are always on there. Lori, you too. We always go back and forth on Twitter. So I appreciate you guys. Always leave me a message. Go to reesonradio.com or just catch me on Facebook, which is where I am normally. All right? You guys be good. I love you. Stay out of trouble.